wouldn't it be great if the landlord could make money alongside us and share in that revenue? Seemed a fairly reasonable question to ask.
Welcome back to Brave Ideas, where we chat with the leaders in commercial real estate to answer all questions faced as a service and help office real estate reposition to meet the evolving demand from the future of work. If you're an investor, fund manager, developer, landlord, operator, property manager, agent or broker, hit that subscribe button. And if you prefer to watch the show or join our newsletter, head over to braveideas.media. I'm your host, Caleb Parker, and this is episode 7 of season 16, brought to you by Mute and FlexSpace AI. In this episode, my co-host Gary Helm and I are joined in the Mute showroom in Clerkenwell by Rob Schogger, co-founder and CEO of MetSpace, who specialize in the managed office product that's growing massively across the UK and many other markets globally. MetSpace operates 60 workplaces across 35 buildings in the UK, and Rob has been in the managed office business since 1999. Yes, Rob is a Flex OG, and I use that term very respectfully, but no, we're not going to party like it's 1999, but Rob does take us back to the 20th century when he and his business partner created one of the first managed office products in London, sitting between traditional leases and serviced offices. Today, MetSpace operates all of their sites on operator agreements with their landlord clients. In this episode, Rob explains why he's welcomed new entrants to the market, like fast-growing VC-backed brands and landlords delivering flex in-house. We dive deep into how MetSpace structures its operator agreements so landlords get paid first, and why he believes every owner will eventually need a professional operator managing services in their buildings. I mostly agree with that. We also get into one of my favorite topics, company culture. Rob talks about treating landlords, occupiers, and suppliers all as clients, why kindness is a commercial advantage, and how MetSpace hires for feel and cultural fit, not just for CV. That's resume for my US friends. We cover a lot in this one, including how interior design has evolved, with Gary and Rob discussing a modular approach to workplace design. But before we transition to the episode, listen to this special message from our sponsor. If you're a landlord or flex operator trying to future-proof your building without wasting time or money, this is for you. Mute turns traditional fit-outs on their head. Their Mute modular acoustic rooms can be built, moved, or reused in days, not months. That means lower capex, less waste, and faster returns, all while creating quieter, more beautiful spaces your members actually want to work in. No demolition, no downtime, no sunk cost. Just smarter design that upgrades, reuses, and profits. From static white boxes to dynamic workplaces, head over to mute.design/brave to change the game for offices that never stand still. Now, without further ado, here's my conversation with Rob from MetSpace. Welcome to Brave Ideas, Rob.
Thank you for having me.
Great to have you. I can't wait to dive into this conversation. And Gary, thanks again for co-hosting with me.
As always, a pleasure, Caleb.
And thanks for hosting, of course, all season long in the Mute Clerkenwell showroom. Amazing location, great acoustics here.
You're not wrong.
Not wrong. Look, we were just chatting, and we're obviously going to continue this conversation we're having offline. I thought what you said a moment ago, Rob, about the term landlord was quite poignant, if I can pronounce that word correctly. And I think it's interesting coming from you, though, because you're an OG in our industry here, and you're saying that the old terms need to change to keep up with the times effectively.
I think, like everything, markets need to adapt. And I think that the office market in central London, which is what I don't want to use the word specialize in, but I have experience in because I've been doing it since the 90s, has gone through a period of change and is continually going through a period of change because we've seen leases getting shorter. And what's happened through COVID is I think the relationship has flipped from where the occupier is more demanding and their needs need to be met a bit more. And I think it's very difficult for owners or owners of real estate to see that. because of what they used to historically.
Well, I think you're right 100%. And, talking about evolving markets and evolving our industry, you've been a central part of that. And is it okay for me to say under the radar?
Strange, because right now, if there was a trending topic list for the office market, the word managed office would sit at the top. And I think everybody's scrabbling around, we talked about it earlier, to try and define something, put it in a box and label it. And I'm just not sure it's easy to do, because I think there are so many variations of what we all do in the industry. So back in the 90s, myself and my business partner, David Kluwer, he's a shareholder, co-owner, co-founder of MetSpace. We're looking for some offices because we wanted to work. He had a similar background to me. We wanted to share an office together. The only options on the market were really a serviced office and a conventional lease. That's it. But we didn't want the serviced office because we didn't want all the reception, the bells and whistles. We just wanted a room, a functional space with desks and chairs, phone, internet connection that we could work from, that felt a bit personal, that had a bit of our personality on it, which wasn't what serviced offices was. It was very much, cellular rooms, they all look the same. So we took a long lease on this period townhouse and we created this business, and we wanted to just call it something different because you just wanted to differentiate. We set up a company called Mortimer Facilities Management Limited, and we traded as a company called Reflex Managed Offices. So that's what we called it at the time, because it felt that we could sit between conventional and serviced and offer an alternative, and we felt like we weren't the only ones that wanted that sort of thing.
And what year was this?
In 99.
Wow. Yeah. When I was looking into the history, I couldn't believe that it was 1999.
Yeah.
There was a note that I read. You're the oldest flex operator in London. I was like, it can't be true.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny you say about the oldest, and
I think the term longest standing might be
I was in the
longest standing.
No one feels old, unless it's a marker's put down. And I remember being in the office, and we have an open plan office, and we can talk about the staff at MetSpace. I think that's what makes MetSpace so special, is the people who work there as well. But I remember we all play music, it's open plan, and I remember it was quiet, and I said, somebody put on a song. So I said, I'll do it, and I put on a song, and I think it was Etta James or someone like that. And I heard this young girl in the office go, my grandma loves that.
Well, I
was thinking, that establishes an age.
Well, I think these days music and people have different eclectic choices, but obviously there's today all kind of new trendy stuff. But Etta James is a classic, right?
Yeah, right. Correct. And that's how I rationalized in my mind. So yeah, we've been doing it a long time. We've been doing it a long time. But again, I don't want to. It's not about being the first. It's not about having this conversation with someone that Humphrey Davy, James Bowman, Joseph Swan. I think these are all people that invented the light bulb. These are the guys that contributed to what Thomas Edison did 1870, 1880. So it's not necessarily about us staking a claim going, we were the first to do it. I think what it's about is us saying, we've done what we've been doing for a long time. We haven't deviated. So we've got experience. We've got a voice, not necessarily right, but we deserve to be listened to just because we've got an opinion on it, I think is probably how I describe it, rather than being the OG.
Oh.
But you can call me the OG because that kind of sounds nice.
I like the term. I said this to David Kinnaird the other day from Ariga, and he looked at me funny, and I was like, I don't think he really appreciated the term OG in a respectful way, but it is mad respect for sure.
No, I appreciate it. I think it's very flattering.
I think any business, generally across the board, any industry, it's hard to have a business sustain itself. I mean, you can see the record startups to fail and everything. So to be around for 30 years, yes, wow. Yeah,
and it was an interesting journey and an interesting learning curve, and that's what we've tried to do, David and I. It's always been about looking at how we can become more efficient, how we can improve what we do, how to create better relationships with everybody. I mean, in 1999, you had the financial crisis. You had the Twin Towers in 2001. You had the financial crisis in 2007. So there were definitely peaks and troughs in the market, COVID. But I think we survived throughout these periods, and unfortunately, through the good relationships that we had with our clients, we were able to keep going.
Well, I think when you started and you talked about creating this filling the gap in the middle between service and traditional, to, Rubber Desk came out saying that there's been a 111% year-on-year growth. I think Spaces to Places put out a report sometime this year that talked about managed office product. So I don't know, 937% increase in inquiries or leads or either closed deals. I have the exact data in front of me. We'll put a link to that report in the show notes. Oh, it is growing massively. And naturally on the back of growth like that, there's new market entrants. We've seen over the last, 10, 15 years, different companies, Hotel being one. Hotel came onto the scene, raised $100 million and crashed. They're still around. They're part of Newmark. How did you, because you've sustained, you haven't crashed, and you've got a nice portfolio. So how did you manage your growth? And when you saw these new market entrants coming on, raising lots of money, did that create anxiety for you?
No, it actually created pleasure and joy.
Why?
Because when we started, we were, not going to keep using them the first, but we were one of the only people doing what we were doing. And that's the hardest thing. It's not about, we're in the business of making money. That's what you do business for, to clothes on your back, roof over your head, food on the table. That's what everyone is doing. So to create something that's different, to then go and sell that product to somebody is really tough. So when somebody comes along and says, I'm doing that same thing, but we're just going to call it something different, but it's just a play on a theme or whatever it is, it was good for us. And I think we welcome competition. It helps you sharpen and focus and evaluate. And I think that's probably been the reason why we have stayed in business, because the model we have isn't complicated. It's packaging up an office space so that an occupier can use that space without the sort of the headache of having to run their office, and they can focus on their business. And that was the core to what we did. And I think that watching other entrants into the market has been really useful for us, really helpful.
I want to turn to you with a question for you, Gary. So you've been in this industry in a different capacity for a long time as well, and you've seen a lot of these new market entrants come and go.
I didn't get the OG term used for me, so you really should be grateful for that.
It's understood. So OG Gary.
Thank you.
I'm an inclusive person here.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
And no, but the question is, sitting from your perspective, seeing the different companies come into the market, some come in and sustain themselves and grow, and some grow in and go away. How have you seen companies that have tried to come in and maybe copy and improve, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't? Do you have a perspective on this growth and what's coming?
Yeah, we do. And I think what Mute has done is challenged the norm. So we were all making pods, and we were all making phone booths, and we were all making, and with huge respect to one of the genuine OGs in our sector, we all did what they were doing. So we were designing and manufacturing a single person pod, a 2-person pod, a 4-person pod, and they were all the same size and shape as everybody else was doing. We then took a back step and said, why are we doing this? Where is the market going? What is the market need going to be? Would a modular solution not be a better way of dealing with a current need, a future need, considering sustainability, considering financial implications, and challenging the way that offices are constructed?
I want to ask you that question in a slightly different way as well. Same question about the differences in the new markets, but apply it to seeing different managed office operators and co-working brands coming in and out of the industry. Sure. From your perspective as a supplier, how have you seen that change, and what do you think about the future as well?
We've seen a number of people in the field. There are few, it has to be said, that have shown the level of, I guess it's commitment, it's authority that perhaps MetSpace offers. So we see people, they come, as you mentioned earlier, Notel. We've seen some other large operators come and had, it's difficult to say bad press, but it's, there has been a stigma attached to some of these spaces. So, well, it's a bit, there was a term that older generations refer to that may not be appropriate, all fur coat and no knickers, but I don't think that's quite
It's a new British term I've learned.
There you go. Every day is a school day. And I think there is this belief that it's about authenticity, it's about depth, it's about quality that runs all the way through it. And sometimes the first impression that they say counts is the one that is quite misleading in the world of flex operators, in managed spaces, because it's all about that entrance. Scratch away at that, and what have you got left?
And I think the first impressions are important. But then, in my world, we use a term called brand-led hospitality. And that means that the brand promise that you create online has to be felt when you come in the door. So first impressions matter, but it has to go deep. And I wonder if you talked about you got to pay the bills, you set up a business to make money to, sustain yourself and your business and your team. But there's a lot of these brands that have come in and gone, taking the VC approach, and it's not a lifestyle business per se. I wonder if there's a difference there. Is there a difference in how the money comes in?
I think so, yeah. I think so. I mean, every road you go down will have its own challenges. So you grow organically, it has its own challenges. You maybe can't grow as quick, but you might learn how to deal with things in a specific way. If you take in money from a VC or a third party, you're not only taking on the pressures that come with taking that sum of money, you're also taking on the pressures that come with the company that are providing that money. So you're dealing with more people. And then from a bank, you're dealing with you might be dealing with a credit committee that are very, it's not personal, it's just very black and white, and they change as the seasons change with their views. So we've, over the years, David and I, we've looked at lots of different ways to grow. We grew organically at the beginning. We had a bit of bank debt in 2001. Twin Towers came down, the dot-com bubble burst, and it was a scary time for a period. I mean, the office
early days for you too.
Yeah, the office market in central London has never really flatlined and dipped dramatically. There've been peaks and troughs, but there was a period in 2001 where it struggled tumbleweed across the streets for a short period of time, but businesses wanted to stay in business. They wanted to feed themselves. They needed to earn money. So there was a consolidation. You weren't getting companies saying, I'm starting with 2 people, but I'm going to be 48 people next week, and then 170 people 3 weeks later, and then we're going to float. That was the flavor of the time. But then that changed to, okay, there's 2 of us. We've got to sack 50 people, but we think we can cope with 3 again. There's companies evolve, companies change.
And what are you seeing today then? What sort of trends around that mindset are you seeing?
I think people are a lot more thoughtful with how they spend money. I think this is where what we see with businesses is probably reflective of the wider economy. People will make decisions when they have to make decisions with regards to moving because there's uncertainty. But London is a special place. London is a special place full of business, full of opportunity. It's the first, I don't want to say the first flag on everybody's map in business, but it's different. Other places in Europe are different. In Germany, there are other major commercial centres. In London, I know you've got Manchester insurance industry and Leeds and Liverpool, but London is the financial centre. As a business, that's where you are thinking, I want to open an office in London. When somebody comes from abroad, they're thinking, I want to open an office in London. So I think London is a micro economy,
sure,
say, but it's a business within a business.
And I imagine that's been the case. That probably hasn't changed across all trend lines. That one stayed the same.
Yeah, not since I've known it.
But I'm wondering if, from the customer perspective, you talked about growth at all costs. Yeah. Then you talked about sacking everybody, and you're now saying people are very deliberate in their thinking. Yeah. Is there has your customer profile changed? So
just to sort of elaborate on that, I think that's VC money. At the top of any cycle in any market, money becomes irrelevant, and it's only about growth. It's only about, can we double in size? Can we treble in size? But there is a cost to that, and the cost when that drops, the problem is the people who put the money in want the money back, or they move on to other things. I think at the moment that there's not huge amounts of capital out there and liquidity, and people are nervous generally in the world economy. So businesses are just careful at how they're going to grow and what they're going to do, which is great for MetSpace, because what we're very good at is being thoughtful and considerate. And I think we are thoughtful and considerate to all our clients. And I would say our clients are our landlord clients, our occupier clients, and our supplier clients. And I think what we've learned, David and I, if you work with that group of people and treat everybody as a client, then you've got longevity. You've got a chance of staying in business. So when times are a bit tough, you know what it's like? COVID was a terrible time for everybody. Awful, barbaric. But there was a period, how long it lasted, for 3 months, a few months, where it felt like everybody was in it together. It was calm. It was lovely. It was harmonious. There was the pressures of life and business just didn't seem to exist because you knew that people, you were all in it together. And then it shifted, and then it went back to actually a fairly aggressive approach after that. It seemed to change quite dramatically. But that sort of approach is how I think MetSpace is we feel like we're all in this together. We're all trying to do the same thing, which is earn the most amount of money from the space as a landlord. But you've got to consider that if you push too hard, the occupier is going to leave. If you squeeze too hard, they're not going to stay because you're a bad landlord. And then the supplier, they got to pay their bills, so you can't push the credit terms too far. So that's what we've tried to, that's what the theme we think that runs through MetSpace and the people at MetSpace as well.
I think the business thrives on relationships, and if you've earned trust, if you've built trust with your partners, then when the bad times come, you buckle down, and if the trust isn't there, when the bad times come, you fall apart and fall out. And I think when the good times are there, you celebrate wins
easy,
together.
And it's easy when the good times are there because it's simple. But you've been in business for a long time, you know what it's like, and you don't know what the other person is having to deal with as well, which is supply lines and buying in your goods from wherever you buy them in from. I think you said, was it Poland?
So we're a Polish organisation. I mean, but I think you've mentioned it a couple of times. You've referenced your people as being critically important.
Yeah,
I think that's the thing. It's the human capital.
Yeah,
it's the human nature that's really, really important within business. And also, I think, as you say, we're all in it commercially. We're all in it to look after our family and our own personal needs, but never to the detriment of others.
Absolutely.
So therefore, looking after the supply chain end to end is really important.
Yeah. I mean, I remember someone very early on said to me, "It's not personal; it's just business," and that really kind of stuck with me for years. And I'm thinking, I know what you mean, but it is personal.
Yeah. Business is personal.
Business is personal. Yeah. It's all about, I think MetSpace is, I'm not saying employees, the team, I think they're kind people, and I think that message of kindness is how they treat everybody that they come across in whether it's flex brokers giving us inquiries, they're kind to them, they try and treat them respectfully. And we're all good in the office with each other. And I think that just flows through the personality of MetSpace.
You can't talk about it being business thriving on relationships and then say it's business, it's not personal. Right. You can't talk about relationships and the importance of networks and then try and say, but it's not personal.
Yeah, so
of course it is. It's massive.
It's one of those old-fashioned terms that just people have latched onto without really thinking about it. But, and I think especially in the world we are in at the moment, there's a lot of anger out there. There's a lot of negativity. So if we're sitting here and we're having a nice conversation, very professional, and what you've done is amazing. You're also the OG, if you don't mind me saying.
Thank you. I'll take it. I've got some grays over here.
But, it's when you're being kind to people in business, the other person on the other end appreciates that.
Yeah.
They don't want to be treated badly because they're probably angry from having looked at the news on their phone. So why not treat each other all a little bit kinder in business, and you might go a little bit further.
I'm a big fan of the word kindness, the act of kindness, just being part of a person's DNA.
Yeah.
And I want to get into the practical stuff in a minute, but I want to stay on this topic for just a little bit longer. I think that human nature, some people there's a range of kindness. Some people are way on the one end and some people are way on the other end. And I think, when we're recruiting people, we're bringing people on the teams, when we feel a vibe with somebody on a first impression, whether that's who we hire or who we want to do business with, to the extent that they're closer to the other side of the kindness side, that to me is puts them way up at the top of the trust factor. And I think you're right. Right now, it's a bit crazy in the world, and we won't get into the details of that. But I think if we can lead with kindness in everything we do, and think before we say something, is this going to be kind?
Yeah.
Then I think we'll create a better world.
I think so.
On that note, when you're hiring, is there a process that you go through to ensure you're bringing on the right people that's going to deliver that kindness to your customers?
That's a good question. No, not. a tried and tested process. It's not a.
How do you know that they're going to fit the culture of that you have built?
You don't know. It's because it's not formulaic. But it's an open plan office. There's about 25 people in this open plan office, and there's this sort of eclectic mix of personalities. Some really quiet people. There's some really gregarious, outgoing people. And the starting point of employing somebody is their CV has to look like it fits. And then when they're in the office, it's almost like if you can kind of squint your eyes and listen to what they're saying and how they're interacting, and it just looks like they fit in. And I can't explain it other than that. But working at MetSpace with all the different personalities, what everybody is really amazing at is respecting everybody's personality. So I've got a wife, 2 children. My kids are different. But, you teach them at a young age that you can be different, but you've got to respect that person and who they are, and teach them just to, and they will respect you. So it's understanding how we all interact with each other. And I think that's probably, again, I don't want to bang on about MetSpace and the team, but that is what drives the company, the people. It's as simple as that. And they are great people. And whilst they're all really different, not all really different, but they're different. They teach everyone how to be. I think is really. I
think what you're describing is it's a feeling. It's a feeling that you hire, you bring them in based on their experience and skill set and competence, but you hire them because of the feeling you get.
Yeah, but it takes time, because it's honeymoon period. Someone's trying really hard, and sometimes people can try hard, and you've just got to be patient with them and explain to them what is expected of them. And the fundamentals of work is it comes back to just be kind and work hard and don't take liberties, and then don't be frightened to be yourself, and they'll learn how to be with everyone else in the office.
This is a prime example really of the culture versus behavior conversation, because whilst you may have a culture, the underpinning of any culture is the behavior of the individuals within that space. Because if behaviors change, then you may all believe there's a common culture there. But
yeah, and I tell you what, you just made me think of something. So if when you wake up in the morning, you're a bit tired and you just don't fancy the day, and you've got to go into an office with 25 people, well, what they're great at in the office is knowing that person just needs a little bit of a wide berth, and don't push and don't nudge and just back off. And I don't know, and I think you can learn that as a skill.
I think, to me, the culture piece is crucial for the office. I've said this numerous times now on this podcast and on my LinkedIn, that the office industry, people thought remote work was going to be the threat, and it's bad office culture is the threat. Because when you described waking up in the morning and you're not really feeling like getting up, if the culture's bad in the office, you definitely don't want to go in. Right. But if the culture is great, if you've got people that you get on really, really well, they give you energy, you get up, you might not feel like going in, but you go in looking forward to that energy. And I think that to your point about your employees, your team being kind and great people for the clients, but I think the clients, and I like how you describe the landlords being the clients, the customers are the clients, and your suppliers are clients. Your team's the clients too. So when we're in an office, our co-workers, we should be treating them the same way with kindness that we treat our customers.
Yeah, well, it's a harmony, isn't it?
Yeah,
there's got to be a harmonious balance to everything we do, and as you're playing with the levels of the sound and everything until it was right and it felt right. And I think what MetSpace are excellent at is finding the right harmony that exists between all the different clients, and the challenge is always adjusting accordingly. And that's maybe the experience of staying in business through tough times, because it's really easy to grow in times are great, but when times are really tough, it illuminates your personality. And I think that's probably what's stood us in good stead, actually.
So back to the landlord, you talked about landlord clients, customer clients, and supplier clients. On the landlord clients, I understand you have 60, I'm going to call them units, 60 workplaces across 35 buildings, and they're all on what you call operator agreements, what I call probably management agreements. But so when you're putting these deals together with your landlord clients, what does the right structure look like? How do you make sure you get a good balance that's going to be a win for them and a win for you and a win for the customer?
Well, when we set up MetSpace, we had this business reflex. We set up in the late 90s, and the model was to take long leases on buildings and find occupiers for the spaces and on short-term licenses.
So back to back it.
And it's a tough model, because when the markets are tough, you've still got these contractual obligations. We sold Reflex in 2015 to an operator looking to grow in central London. We had, I think, 18 buildings at the time when we sold. And so we had this non-compete for a few years. And we didn't sell because we didn't like the model. We just felt it was an opportunity to sell. And we were about to embark on a different product, which was, we had period style townhouses, which were very fixed. They're listed buildings. The rooms were of a certain size. We had clients come to us going, I love what you do, but I need more than 10 desks. Have you got a 20 desk or a 30 desk room? And we couldn't help them. So we thought, well, we're missing out on business. And why don't we take floors in buildings? So that was the idea of where MetSpace started. But because we sold, we had this nonsense. So during our period of inactivity, we thought, we tried to turn it around and thought, what would a landlord want? What would an owner want? Because we sold a business, serviced a managed office business, where we were making money from that business as the operator. Wouldn't it be great if the landlord could make money alongside us and share in that revenue? Seemed a fairly reasonable question to ask. And we started thinking about hotels.
This was 2015.
This was 2015.
Okay.
And we started thinking about hotels and that model. And the hotels are operators, and they operate the buildings. So why can't that exist for offices? It's only because it hasn't historically existed. It's what you were saying about your product. You know, everyone was doing the same thing, and because they were following a particular pattern. So it wasn't trying to re-engineer something. It was just, or disrupt. It was just, is there another way of doing this? So we came up with this idea of this operator agreement, which we called it, instead of a management agreement, because we looked at these management agreements, and I think they're quite complicated. There's P&Ls. An owner of a building has got to start understanding profit and loss accounts and management fees. So we thought, could we simplify it as from the owner's point of view, whilst at the same time giving the operator the opportunity to run it freely? So we wrote this operator agreement, which was fairly basic. It's a commercial service arrangement, which causes a lot of problems with new lawyers, because they look at it and go, that's not a lease. I've got to rewrite that. And it's a 15-page commercial arrangement. We have obligations to run your space, Mr. Landlord. If we don't do that, you kick us out. So it's a fairly cookie cutter, sensible approach to business. The way the financial modeling works, again, is exactly the same for all 60 operator agreements. We say to a landlord, look at what you could do if you're renting it over 5 years on a conventional basis. Then we will model it on a MetSpace basis, and then just compare the revenue. And we will give you a share of what we get to ensure that you earn more over a 5-year period than you would conventionally. And that's why we've got 60 operator agreements across 30 odd buildings, is because once a landlord has done one, he invariably will do more with us.
If you're a flex operator still juggling spreadsheets and manual rate sheets, stop. You don't need to be a wizard to outsmart the big guys. You just need FlexSpace AI. It's your AI-powered revenue team that never sleeps, optimizing prices, automating marketing, and filling your space while you focus on your members. No burnout, no guesswork, no what-if tabs at 2 a.m. With FlexSpace AI, your building works as smart as you do. Now head over to flexspace.ai/brave and start growing your revenue today. So if the landlord is looking at generating on a net effective basis after the tenant incentives, if they're generating 35 pounds a square foot, or maybe in Fitzrovia, 70 pounds a square foot, you're going to come in and say, okay, well, based on what we could generate by delivering this managed product, we'll ensure that, okay.
And if you don't get more than your 35 pounds a foot, you don't have to pay us any money. So we don't charge management fees to landlords until they get what they're supposed to get.
So is your fee calculated against the margin on top, or is your fee a set amount that kicks in once they've hit whatever quantum that you need to hit?
Our fee, our share of the revenue, is based upon us being able to find an occupier for their space at more money than they would get conventionally, So if they think it's going to be £35, we have a financial formula that we created to ensure that they get paid first for the first chunk of whatever revenue's coming in, and then we split everything thereafter.
And it's different. Interestingly, it's different than typical management agreements
Correct.
that co-working flex operators would put together, because they have such variable incomes. But you've got one income line from one customer.
Correct. It's very straightforward.
Yep.
It's very simple. Again, this is about looking at it from the landlord's perspective. He is deep diving into a sector that he probably feels very uncomfortable with. We're saying to him, trust us. Just trust us. We will take care of this for you. And so much so that we will shoulder some of the financial responsibility. So we will put in the furniture, and we will not earn any money until you've got what we said you're going to get. And it's gone well. It's received well. I said it's probably the biggest challenge is getting a landlord to buy into the idea. But once they've done it once, I think majority of landlords that have got multiple floors in buildings have said, would you like another floor? It's coming up next week, or it's coming up in 6 months' time, which is testament to the model, and testament again going back to the people, because MetSpace, because by managing the space correctly, so if somebody says the light bulb's gone, we're there in it.
So what's your view then on, like, you see TSP is rolling out their base Cat A plus or Cat A with options to add the plus, and you see GPE rolling into the managed world with a goal to get to 1 million square feet in their portfolio. I think that I was at an event on a panel, I don't know, 5 years ago, and I think one of the things we talked about was the biggest threat to the co-working and flex operator world is not work from home. It's actually landlords coming in and doing their own bit themselves. Yeah. What's your view?
I don't see it as a threat. I see it as a necessity for landlords to adopt this approach. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. If a landlord wants to let his office space, he has to refurbish it. If he wants to generate more money, he has to provide some services, some managed services. If he wants to make the most amount of money from that space, he has to have a professional outfit managing those services. MetSpace is, I believe, the most professional outfit out there in what we do, which is the specific managed product. I don't think it's this thing we talked about earlier about this trending topic of managed offices. A landlord thinks if I just refurbish my space and stick some desks in, I'm going to find an occupier for it. And if I add a bolt on and tell them I'm going to provide them with cleaning, and the occupier gets there and he rings up and he says, my light bulb's gone, and 5 days later somebody's there to change a light bulb, that occupier's going to be really annoyed, or something's not working. So, this old-fashioned way of managing space, I think is gone, is wrong. And I think the more landlords embrace it, the better. I think every landlord will have to embrace it. I think it's just about the quality of the operator. So fantastic for TSP, fantastic for everybody.
Thank you for sharing those details around the landlord side. I think it's really good to hear that. Back in 2019, when I set up my Bold brand, I was going down a similar path in the sense that WeWork's coming in and signing leases and delivering a different product, but taking all the upside from the landlords in their buildings. And then I was like, well, let's create a brand that competes with WeWork, but partners with landlords and let them get involved in the upside, and same downside risk. But so it's I'm a big fan of the operator agreements, and I think that makes sense. If we dive into the customer side, though, the customer, meaning the end user, the occupier, and their team, over the years in the managed product, I'd be curious to hear how the design has changed, because we used to be, back in the old days, very cellularized, lots of offices, and we've gone to an open plan these days. A lot of the CapEx has moved from your joinery to FF&E. So I'd just be curious to maybe have a conversation around how you've evolved the look and feel.
What do you think?
The COVID, as you referred to earlier, has had a huge impact on the individual and the business model. So you mentioned about a light bulb. If somebody can't get a light bulb changed for a week, people now who, when they come into the workplace, they want the same feel they have at home. Even pre-COVID, we always used to say that clients wanted to work from home, but but they wanted to do it in the office. So you still have that creature comfort. You still have something that's personalized, and you have something that allows you to operate at your maximum. And when you're trying to blend 15 people, 25 people, 100 people, all to be at their optimum, that's a challenge for workplace designers.
Yeah. So I guess you've got lots of spaces to work from.
Yeah.
So you've got your desk. People don't just work at their desk. They'll go to the collaboration table, which doubles up as where they'll have something to eat in the kitchen, to the breakout area, to the booth, just to a soft seating area. And that's kind of what's happened, hasn't it?
And even you just saying their breakout area, collaboration area, booth, the vocabulary that we're now working with is changing. We have here a community table. We don't refer to it as a collaboration table. So if we're sat at the community table and somebody asks you a question, don't roll your eyes. You're sat there working as a group. Collaboration means many different things to many different people.
You just changed the name for me.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
I'm going to have to put that to a vote in the office.
Yeah.
Community table.
Community table. I love that.
What do you call it now?
Collaboration table.
Okay.
Because that's, I guess, the word that, that people used. I mean, but yeah, I think
the workspaces, work settings, all of these things. It used to be a desk, and Barbara Oscarby famously said a few years ago, the desk is dead.
Right.
We've now got some clients who are now saying to us, well, we're going to introduce some rooms and some pods, but also we need some more desks.
Yeah.
So this more desk thing's creeping back in again.
John Priest from Hub Australia, he's the COO. I think he's in, let me say that again. He's in Sydney, Australia. Yeah. He had an article on our braveideas.media site about the desk being dead. And it used to be that we designed for a number of desk ratio of, I don't know, anywhere from 25 to 150 square feet per desk. But now you're going away from that desk metric.
Yeah, to some extent, yes. I mean, it again, there's a fine balance between flooding space with desks and not having the right amount of breakout area and community area and kitchen. I said already.
Or a big enough tea point.
Or a big enough tea point.
As we were saying earlier.
So
because you may change the measurement tool and say, well, it's not one desk per square foot, whatever it might be, but it's still one person. It's one human being that is going to be in that space, and they might be sat on a sofa, or they might be sat at a big table, but they still need to have everything around them.
Yeah, and I think just touching on the client and the needs of the client, the customer client, what we offer at MetSpace is we will market the space. It will be furnished and fitted out how we think an occupier will want it. If businesses are growing things, they contract, they grow, nobody knows what they're going to do in 2, 3, 4 years time. It depends how the market is, but they can add more desks into the space that they have with us without us charging them more money, so they can feel like we are with them, we're helping them grow.
So you've fully fitted out and then before you start marketing it, or how do you fit it out in a way that can be agile so it evolves with the company?
So MetSpace managed office, I guess there's two parts to that. MetSpace, so for managed is I guess the term means that looked after for you by a company. And MetSpace office is a space that is fully furnished and fitted, ready to use for an occupier. And all the bills are included in that single license fee.
Right.
All the amenity, like the breakout area, space, the kitchen, all that is all in that office space. And I think that we through experience, we have a rough idea that in a 1,500 square foot, 2,000 square foot space, you'll need X amount of desks, you'll need 2 meeting rooms, you'll need a phone booth, you'll need a kitchen, you'll need a breakout area. And the skill we've learned over the years is that the balance of getting the right amount of amenity space to desk space. So if you had 4 desks in a 2,000 square foot area and loads of breakout space, somebody's going to go, that's an expensive office. I can only put 4 people in there. So it's trying to find the balance. You can't get it right for everybody. And sometimes companies say, I like the space, but can you add another meeting room?
And that's actually where I was going with that question, because as you say, not every customer is the same, but also the same customer, that they change over time. So if they sign 3 or 5 year license with you in 18 months, they might have had 30 desks, but now they need, 40 desks, or they might go say, well, actually, I've got 50 people, but I'm only getting 20 people in the office at a time. So I need to have less desks and more breakout areas. As part of that managed service, do you come in and help them evolve that footprint?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's a balance. You can't, there's only so much, there are expenditure things to consider, but yes, I mean, again, our clients, our average occupancy for a client is about 3.5 years, and that's how long they stay for. So, the challenge is that taking the pressures off the business to allow them to grow, because if you take the pressures off the business and allow them to grow with you, then they're going to stay, which is going to benefit the landlord client because they're going to keep revenue coming. It's going to benefit MetSpace because that's how we earn money. And then if they want to grow and they really love you, we've got some clients that have grown with us and said, can you find us another space? We will only move to a MetSpace, which that's ideal, which is flattering. I mean, yes. So yeah, it's a learning curve, and I don't think you can't get it right all the time. As you know, it's difficult.
But I think, as we established before we started talking today, through the approach that we're taking with a modular solution allows greater flexibility in initial thoughts, but also future-proofing, responding to change and de-risking and reducing some of that cost of change and thinking about the life cycle cost.
Yeah, which is important.
Yeah.
Because you say, and I think what's happened, businesses have shed staff, contracted, work from home is the new future. We only need 10 desks. And then all of a sudden they realize, well, solitary confinement is actually a punishment. I don't want to sit in a room on my own and work.
Yeah.
Because it's lonely and I can't learn. And I want to be with other people because connection is what we all do as human beings. And that's had an impact on workspaces and growth. And all of a sudden we need some private areas and desks and as I say, there's a cost to that.
Yeah, that's what I keep leaning into, is that the companies that really have strong company cultures, their teams all are aligned with the mission of the company, that they want to be in that culture, but the leadership doesn't force them to be in the culture. People choose to be there, which means that sometimes they might work from home, but when they come in, they're coming in they do their productive stuff maybe at home because there's less distractions depending on who their situation in life. But a friend of mine has lots of distractions at home, so he'd rather go into the office. But when they come into the office, it's for that social connection. But they still need sometimes places when they come in to still do productive work as well. So it is a mix.
Yeah, and just walk away from a noisy area. Just be a bit calm. As you said, you've got your rooms that are just very calming, but you've got to just step away sometimes.
I was at 22 Bishopsgate last week and went into the Exchange as the co-working space that I helped create a couple years ago. And I had a couple calls to do. I was already in the area, so I popped in. It was great. But then I was annoyed. It was a Friday. I thought it'd be great. I could just pop into the phone booths and do my calls. They were all busy. I'm like, it's a Friday. But I did get one.
Insult, working on a Friday.
I know. But I did get one. Okay, so we're coming to the end, but I have 2 quick fire questions for you. So quick questions, quick answers. The first one is, what's the biggest lesson that you've learned over the years from a mistake? We all make mistakes in business. We fail, we keep going, we learn. What's the biggest thing you've learned from a mistake?
Be courageous.
Be brave.
Be brave. Yeah. Be brave. Don't be frightened to make a decision.
Yeah. What was the mistake? What happened? I know. I appreciate I'm countering my thing. I said quick answer. That was good.
Yeah.
But now I'm curious.
I don't. Just generally, I'm talking about a general movement towards, the worst thing is not making a decision. That's the worst thing. Making a decision, seeing the effects of that decision and being brave enough to assess it, change it, adapt it to the needs of the market and listening to what your customers want. That is what I mean by
love it. I love it. Okay. Now, looking forward, what is the biggest opportunity right now for landlords and operators of office real estate?
The biggest opportunity, one, partner with MetSpace.
You can't say that.
Why? Because I think the biggest opportunity is, I think you have very little opportunity unless you spend money on your space. That, I guess, is what I'm getting at. If you don't spend money on your space as an owner of office buildings, you're not going to let your space. If you spend money on your buildings, make sure you choose the right advisor, the right partner to partner with who can advise you. And it's dangerous. That I think is covered in problems because everybody is claiming to be the right partner, and it's a minefield. And I'm not sure everybody actually knows what they're doing. This comes back to this trending topic, managed. Everyone says they can advise, they can do managed spaces, but it's not. So when I say MetSpace, that is
Fair enough. Thank you for sharing that. I think you're right. The office real estate is changing. It's not good enough to deliver a white box anymore. You've got to invest in delivering a great experience. Yeah. And if you're not set up to do it yourself, like GPE, you need a good partner.
Yeah, they're great. These guys are great. They really are. They're market leaders. They're courageous. They're leading the way, which is fantastic. But I think it's an inevitability that this is the future of offices, that you have to spend money on.
There you go. You've heard it here. Rob, thank you for taking the time and sharing all of your wisdom and insights from the years. Gary, thanks for chiming into this conversation. This has been good.
Thank you. Yeah, great to meet you, Rob.
Yeah, lovely to meet you too.
Chatting to you.
Yeah, thank you. It's a real honor to be on here.
The pleasure and honor is mine. Thank you for tuning in, and until next time, take care of yourself. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe at braveideas.media. And I'm actively sourcing buildings for brand-led hospitality repositioning. If you have a lead, an owner considering a sale, or a partner brief, DM me or reach us at bravecorp.co. And until next time, take care of yourself.